All right, this is going to be great because this is going to be leaders who care on the road, basically. So CJ, welcome to the Leaders Who Care series. I'm so excited to have you on, and you have your own best half doing the driving while you're doing this. This is like a
That's
family.
right.
This is a family event going on. Best way to start is I'll have you introduce yourself, but I wanted to preface it a little bit by I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm quoting this, you are a sixth generation rancher. You got Cherokee blood running through you. Um, you live on your cattle farm founded by your family during Americans' land rush in the late 1800s, which is just outside of Bristow, Oklahoma. Is that all accurate?
It is. I would be the fifth generation. My kids would be the sixth. So we're carrying it on one last name at a time.
I love it. Now that's tradition is a wonderful thing, and history is a wonderful thing as well to keep to learn from. Can you then briefly introduce yourself? We won't go into the business part and all that yet, but introduce yourself, where you're from. I kind of give it away. Where you're from originally, where you are now. If you like, tell us what CJ stands for, and maybe other stuff that the world doesn't know yet that you want to reveal now.
Yeah, I'm CJ Garton. I'm a country music recording artist, hit songwriter. I grew up on a cattle ranch in Depew, Oklahoma, which is just outside of Bristow, but we use Bristow as the closest term because other than a few horses and cattle, there's not a lot there. And I currently reside in Nashville and split my time between Nashville and our cattle ranch in Oklahoma. We're in Oklahoma currently right now as we speak. Probably about 3 hours ago, we was in Arkansas, and about 5 hours, six before that, we was in Nashville. So we're always going, always running. This time of year is always hectic. My wife is from Virginia, so we decided to meet up and fall in love and get married right dead smack almost in the middle. So we got to go this way or we got to go that way, depending on what the holiday season is and what sailing line. We're used to traveling a lot, but it's one of the situations that we didn't want to miss out our opportunity to raise our kids together. She also sings very wonderfully and plays fiddle and very talented young lady. So we kind of got Johnny and June thing going, and our kids are homeschooled so that way they can, share the moments with us and we don't miss out what's important for them as parents. When it comes to, my name, how it came about, it's funny actually because I was always Little Clinton to like fifth grade, and my cousins who were coming up to me who were like 5 years old was calling me Little Clinton. And as I'm hitting that age of transitioning through middle school, I don't do that anymore. So, I was like, we got to figure this out, Dad. I'm not Little Clinton. I'm not little anymore. So my birth name is Clinton Bruce Garton II. It's named after my father, and my oldest son is now Clinton Bruce Garton III. So I guess we're trying redneck royalty out for a spell. And so Clinton Bruce Garton II, we tried C2, and that sounded a little too Star Warsy, so we went CJ for Clinton Jr. And it just kind of stuck. Every now and then you hear my grandma or my aunt or somebody slip and call me Clinton, and it kind of just throws everybody. We're all like, what? You know? But it's one of those type of things that a lot of people have always known me as CJ, and it became a stage name, which I never really thought about. I always knew I wanted to sing and write songs. Didn't realize that I was going to have this, I guess, persona as CJ. That's kind of just who I was and who I wanted to be.
Did anybody ever just go, "Hey, Siege"?
Yeah, people do that, and my buddy, Chuck, he was a photographer for the Stars and a musician and a professional hunter as well. And Chuck and I went over to George Jones's house, and I was over there at George with Tanya Tucker and their kids and everybody. And I had him sign me an autograph when I first moved to town when we was hanging out, and he signed it. And then he signed. I looked at it, and his wife Nancy, and I was sitting there like, she's like, "What's wrong, CJ?" I'm like, "Well, I've gone this far to get George's autograph, and he signed it wrong." I said, she goes, "George, you signed his name wrong. It's CJ, not TG." And so whenever I came home, my roommate Scott was there, and he's like, "What'd you do today?" I was like, "Well, I just hung out with George Jones and Tanya Tucker at his house." And he's like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I got you an autograph though." He goes, "Shit, no way." He goes, "Man, thank you so much. This is awesome." He goes, "Who's TG?" So to this, to up until Chuck passed away, he always called me TG after that. And I was like, "It's CJ." He goes, it's TG. If it's good enough for George Jones, it's good enough for me. So
Yeah, those are the there was I call him the scholar Kobe Bryant. You remember him? He said
yeah,
we should all have a dream. We should all be going for whether it's a platinum record or a championship or the head of a company or whatnot. But the dream is right now. The moments like that, the experiences like that, that's the dream, he would say. And there's part of it. So, hey, talking about your kids in the back, what were you like as a young kid and a teenager? Was it music from day one, or was it dreaming to be a cowboy, or what?
I was born a cowboy, and honestly, I was born a musician. It never really was a choice. I did have to make that determination in life. I guess that's what I was going to do. But from the day I was born, I was making up songs and singing. It was something that I just I felt it was a part of me, and I couldn't imagine life without it. I was surrounded by music. My dad sang and played music. He didn't do it for profession. He did it more for fun. Most time he did construction work at the ranch. My grandparents, would have little shindigs at the ranch where they'd have rodeos out there and stuff, and they'd play music, have little jamborees, things like that. But it was something I just consciously, was born with. And I remember being a little kid in the sandbox, burying GI Joes and making up songs before I knew what I was doing. And as I got older, I realized, a lot of people had to make a determination of what path they wanted to take, what their profession was going to be, what they were going to do when they graduated school. It was just always an answer for me that was instilled in me. And so I took it that that was my responsibility and the blessings that I was given, and that with that, I'm supposed to do something good with it. I'm supposed to learn from it. It was therapy for me as a kid. So music wasn't just a profession for me or a choice. It was part of life, and it was a valuable teacher for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. How sometimes you just know and everything. And I've had, and I do call it, I do consider it a privilege to have gotten to know you a little bit, over dinner and then time we spent together. And so I told my sons about you, and to be honest, they're not huge country music fans, but they're big music fans. And one does beats and all that,
Yeah.
hip hop and stuff. And 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 I'm saying this authentically. They loved your voice. They loved your authenticity.
Oh,
I climbed up the ladder, the cool ladder, just knowing you, especially after that, and and
uh,
whatnot. And I think this is an opportunity for a lot of our audience who don't know you. And I want to ask you related to that. I read that you said I always said I grew up 100 years too late. Tell us why you said that in terms of your
yeah.
ancestry and your connection and your respect for this nostalgia, even.
Well, I've always been told that I have an old soul. I grown up as a kid. It was kind of hard for me to make friends that were my age. I just grew up, I think, a little different. I didn't grow up, culturally in the internet and on, driven by specific things, and I wasn't current with the times. I kind of grew up on grandpa's radio and dad's television, because I listened and followed what was around me most of the time. And most of the time, people that I hung out with was, in their 30s and 40s whenever I was 5 and 6 years old. And
Wow.
so, you got to learn to fit in with those kind of people. And when you do fit in, but then you go back and being a kid, um, growing up on the ranch, growing up with different responsibilities, different things that certain people don't relate to. It's not always an easy transition. And I was always someone to be someone watching. I always kind of wanted to know why things were the way they were, or the purpose behind it, or how people were, because life's not always easy. It's not always what we expect, but we try to make the best out of it. We try to understand that so we can have a broader idea and understand where somebody's coming from. And so For me, it's just one of those situations where I just feel like when I say I grew up 100 years too late, I really like the older morals, the older sensibilities, faith in God, faith in family, hard work, things like that. I mean, as a kid, obviously you want to try to evade hard work and escape and bass fish and deer hunt and just be a kid. But, as I matured and got older, I realized those things that were instilled in me that I didn't really care for as a young kid became staples of what made me who I am and the opportunities that I'm able to, now succeed in because of what, that was like back then.
Yeah, and I think that's a great message right there. We talked about the journey being important, and you talked about as kids you like to go deer hunting and this and that, and I like to play hockey and all that. And yet, even in the deer hunting, even in the playing hockey that were for fun, we were still learning. We've got to work harder to get better. We've got to respect our teammates and the competition. We got all those core
Yeah.
foundation stuff that you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just same as like I love to play sports. I didn't really have the stature as a kid growing up to be a football player, but I played with heart. I played with all heart. They used to call me Clint the Animal Gartner to come out on football field because I didn't weigh any more than a wet puppy probably out there. But I just didn't have any quit. I didn't have anything in my mind that said I couldn't do this. I wanted to persevere. I wanted to prove people wrong. I wanted to show that I could do anything that they could do or set my mind out to do it better.
Yeah, I think that's great. Do you remember any experiences that you've had, probably a lot, that inspired you to write and sing specific songs and or ones that specifically write for fellow artists instead of for yourself?
I believe a song is a moment. I believe it's life. And I never tried to make up a song just because we want to write a hit song. I generally try to find myself always open to the world and listening. And if something emotionally that I'm going through hits me, I'll generally write to relieve that stress or that excitement or that moment, and I try to capture that in a song so that way it's then relatable to the listener the way it related to me and what it got me through because I assumed that it would do the same for them. And that was something that was learned. That was something I didn't just go, hey, this does that. It was I found myself at a young age using music, like I said, as therapy to get through things that I would go through. And as I would write these songs, they were for me. They were for something that I could do that I understood. And then when I got out, I was singing those songs. It hit me how much it influenced others that possibly were feeling that way or had felt that way.
Hmm.
And I realized the power of a song, the power of a message, and it doesn't have to come from a scripture. It can sometimes come from your radio, and it's a very healing thing. So, yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
where
no,
that comes from.
that's great. How did you ever be in scenarios where you said, um, you know, this song is great, but I think it'd be better if, for example, Tanya Tucker sang it, or no, that's really better for me. Or how did you manage that, or did it just you just kind of knew?
Well, a lot of song cuts happen kind of serendipitously. You'll write a song and it'll kind of grow wings on its own and find its way there. Also, if you co-write, those co-writers are always interacting the same way you do, and it happened to be like when Tanya and David Unco cut a song. David Wade, who did management with David Unco, co-wrote that with us and another buddy. And so they were out at Sturgis, and he just had pulled up on the phone. Tanya heard it, they loved it, and it happened to be that Tanya had never done a duet with David Unco, even though David Unco wrote Tanya Tucker's very first number one, "Would You Lay with Me in a Field of Stone" when she was 14. So it kind of had like this full evolution that she said, I would love nothing more than to do a duet with this man because after all these years I never have. And I was blessed with the honor to be able to be a writer on that song for their first and only duet ever. As
Mhm.
for other artists, when you pitch a song, when you deliberately pitch a song like Wade Jennings, Waylon's grandson, we knew that there's specific veins that he wanted to reach. There's certain things he did want to sing about, he didn't want to sing about. So we put the song "The Gun" out there, which I actually cut myself, but I knew the song was such a powerful song that it really resonates with the audience. And I know that's a sensitive subject, but it's actually the gun speaking as if it had a voice, and it's not saying positive or negative. It's literally just telling a story and letting her interpret their view of how they want to receive that. Way said that he wished he would have written that song, so he wanted to cut it. I'd be honored to do so. And a lot of the music we write, happens that way. That or we sit down, and there is certain things that I just absolutely love, that I believe that fit who I am as an artist, but also fit my vocal, because you can love a song, but artistically speaking, you may not cut it. You may not, sing what Michael Jackson did if you're George Jones. But,
Right.
and I know a lot of artists becoming very successful on TikTok by doing just that. You just really have to make sure that it's yours and that you have to believe it, because if you don't believe what you're singing, nobody else is going to, no matter how great the song is.
Yeah, I think that's great. And at one point you raised there about it's a moment. It's so amazing how we remember things, where we were when that song was first heard, or how it affected you, or what happened when you heard that song, and how it sticks to you. Even they're finding, you probably know this, even people with dementia and Alzheimer's, it's actually music that they remember. I remember it was
Yeah.
Glenn Campbell did a whole tour with Alzheimer's singing a song, and when he got on stage, he knew the song, and then he couldn't remember anything else. And I know you're also involved in, and it's important to you to um, use your platform to make a social impact. So I'm mishmashing a couple of things together here, because when you said moments, it really hit me that I don't know if there's anything more powerful than music that does make us remember certain things and does make us feel better, etc. Can you talk about that and talk about how you feel about making a social impact at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I tell you what, let me step over here real quick so I can hop out. We're parked so I can move around now. You're in my hometown of Bristow, Oklahoma. We just pulled in,
Cool. We're
and
getting a tour. We're getting a
the
tour too. This is awesome.
well, the very first stop before we head to the cattle ranch, because it's about 20 minutes outside of town, is about when anybody would see Walmart. So, so we're here in Walmart parking lot in Bristow, Oklahoma. We just arrived, but this hometown has always been a memory for me. It's always home. There's always magic in the air when I show up, and you talk about the impact of the song, the moment of the song. Yeah, I every time I come through here, I always find myself writing a song whenever I get close to home. I get home, and next thing you know, I'm literally just it's something that's not like it's 5 minutes, it's 10 minutes, and when I leave, I had the tendency to carry it home with me. I know I jump around on the question, but it's
No, that's cool.
actually talk.
I'm going to interrupt you because that made me think of something. Had you ever thought of, because say when every time you come home, you think of one, has that, and I know there's albums, but have you or anybody ever thought of, you have one song, like a book that has multiple chapters?
Yeah. Yeah, our last record we did was a double vinyl, and I guess it's a concept album. We decided to jump off and to do our own thing. We had a lot of people, who were doing production with us, doing this, doing that, and I kept, really pushing Nashville to work with me on putting out traditional country like what I grew up loving, and it's very pop country driven. And I get artists that cut that stuff, but I know that, for what I sing and what I perform, it has to be that old Merle Haggard, that old Keith Whitley, that traditional story song that we all grew up loving, and that, that American pride, and, being able to capture that. So this concept album kind of tells those stories. And we've got a bunch of records coming out right now that we've been working on the last year, and we'll be working on at the beginning of 25, that really capture actual moments of my life and capture, stories that I think that it doesn't matter if you're from a big city or a small town, you're going to have a relationship to it, because a lot of us go through similar things. It might be a
Right.
different culture, a different atmosphere, but the feeling of it's there.
Right.
That's why whenever you do hear a hit song that really, or if you hear a song that really resonates with you, like something that might be a Springsteen or something that might be a Johnny Cash song, it's because it's real. And I believe, there's only two kinds of music. There's music for the times and there's timeless music. And I always want to be somebody that makes timeless music, something that never dies, never gets old, never goes out of fashion, because we all have cycles, just like war and clothing and everything else. We're rediscovering things, just like right now kids are loving the 80s, kids are loving the
Yeah, I
90s.
know.
It's a it's a it's another cycle, and people who have lived that kind of laugh, as parents or grandparents are like, hey, I was there, you guys are, but it's just affirmation that those songs hit the same way, no matter how long they've been around, if they're written with an honest heart and a real story.
Yeah, and sometimes they come back and it just refreshes us, even seeing it in a different way, remembering and seeing it in a different way at the same time. I know when we were at this event in New York, there was a lot of talk about social impact. Um, what turns you on? What's your passion, social impact wise, and using your platform to make a difference?
Man, I really, first off, I'm a veteran, so my heart goes to veterans. My heart goes out to active duty families, people that make a choice coming right out of school, instead of going off to college and going to this job curriculum. You go and you put yourself in your life at risk for a greater cause, fighting for your freedom, fighting for your opportunity. A lot of them don't even are still kids. We're not mentally, I guess, capturing the weight of what choice we're making at that age. And I have just a lot of love. A lot of guys come home with the trauma and the PTSD that I've met and I've spent time with, and I realized how much bigger of a thing that is. And I would really like to be a part of impacting that for a greater cause, as well as it's a situation where, you grow up, you know, as a kid, I realized, when we said 100 years too late, I was thankful not to have to grow up around the internet. I was thankful not to have to grow up with those things influencing me. Now look at my children and I see how much the internet, how much social media, how much certain things are that can bring us down and give us mental trauma, give us
Yeah.
insecurities, give us things. And so another big one is mental health and children. And because right now we have this huge gift and opportunity to be educated and go into this state like AI and things that are occurring, we also need to be very conscious and very smart about how we allow that to better us as human beings, not lose the humanity, not lose the compassion, and pass on kindness, because if those things are used in a proper way, they're going to be detrimental in a negative way to our children and our youth and our upbringing.
Yeah, great point. And kudos on the veterans. They put everything on the line for us, and they should be taken care of 1,000,000%. There's not even another answer to that. With respect to the AI and everything, I just wanted to ask you a couple more questions on this part. How do you feel about AI and the fact that you know, there's a lot of stuff going on with, it's going to rate songs for you, it's going to do music for you, whatnot, but we got to keep the human creativity, the emotion, the authenticity, the audience feeling the singer and the bands, singing it. How do you feel about all that?
Well, I think AI is a tool to help us as human beings, us as humanity. So we have to stick to the resources and purpose of what it is originally created for, and not redirect it with laziness, or not redirect it to take over, the humanistic approach. Because you're never going to teach a machine to be human. I mean, you can teach it, characteristics of what we should do, but then having it sing for you, having it write for you, I mean, that's artistic expression. Like that's like Beethoven. That's like
Right.
some of the most phenomenal people that we look iconically, and it's not just music art, but also picture art, forms of art, interpretation. You got Shakespeare. All of these are things that are the human element. And, AI is artificial intelligence. AI is, I believe, was best created to serve us, to help us take tasks and occupy them tasks and minimize those time that we need to succeed in those tasks.
Yeah.
So if we can use that and get inspired to be creative and not let it take over the human purpose of it, the human element of it, I think it can be used for good. But if it's used to recreate a vocal of an artist that's passed on, that might be something that's more of a nostalgia thing, but it really should be left alone. I mean, it should be the opportunity of those people have a right to be who they were and have a choice. They're no longer with us, they no longer have that choice. And you're only you for a while. We only get a short period of time to make an impact in this world. And I would hate to tarnish that with using AI to create this plethora of material that's really not factual to the person or the creator.
Yeah, well said. And I hear you when you're saying that, in the sense of, there's the one human thing that is absolutely distinctive is the energy we put out, the feeling we put out, the heart we put out, that can't be duplicated, which is why audiences love it, right?
Yeah, it's just one of those type of things, and people connect with that stuff. I mean, obviously, AI can take in there and write some sort of rhyme because it goes over millions and millions of songs. That okay, these are the words, but I read over some of the AI stuff. There's no heart, there's no feeling. It's just there's a lot of surface to it, but there's no depth.
Yeah.
And what you're getting from the human emotion, that you're getting from the soul, the heart, you're getting from faith, that is all from experience. That's all from life lessons. That's all from loss. That's all from competing in sports and competing in life. And you can't take that element and put it into an AI, because it doesn't. It's something it's not going to understand. And I
Yeah.
don't think it should. I think it should facilitate our needs of what we need and to make our world a better place, a little more efficient. But there's just there's no removing the soul, the human soul.
Yeah, right on, brother. Well, you know what they say in LA, we got to leave them wanting more so we can have a sequel. So we may have to have a sequel here. But I asked one more question on this part.
Okay.
A client in 2021, a client told me about the year 2020, the pandemic year. He said, 2020 was the year that flew by slowly. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
what a great term, because we still feel like COVID was yesterday and also years ago at the same time. It's kind of like all
Yeah.
there. With all that said, we're now heading into 2025 already. What are you most grateful for? And also, what are you most hopeful for?
Oh man. Well, I'm first and foremost, I'm always most hopeful for my family and the ones I love to succeed. And as a father and a husband, I want to be the best that I can for them. I want to work to be the best version of who I am for them. And then as it moves down, my fans and the people that have supported me. I've got people I work with like Jeff Truck Central. I got Alan Durantis, who introduced me to yourself. I feel like I put a responsibility to every day wake up and try to find ways to better myself and my approach and my understanding of what we're going through. And 2020 was a hard time for everybody. I really never stopped. I was continually, when I made that double vinyl record, me and Joe Spivey got together, who toured with John Anderson for 20 plus years, had his own studio, and going into it, I asked him to go in this partnership on this label that I created myself, and in that process, I found a mentor. I found a guy that made me a better musician, taught me a lot, taught me to be able to relook at things and say, look, trust yourself. Don't listen to others, because I was in the business for so long. People were telling me for a long time, I need to get with the times and listen to Taylor Swift. And he's like, no, you need to be you. He said, and that's what's great about you. You are you. And so it was amazing that even though 2020 was going on, I hate how it impacted the world. And I feel like we're still feeling the repercussions of that, because
Yeah.
inflation has skyrocketed. People are still on edge. And I think they're starting to finally, after that period of time, settle. But, there was a lot of post trauma and depression that people didn't realize that they had from the isolation. Us as human beings aren't meant to be isolated. That's
Yeah.
how you see people go crazy in movies and stuff. If they're stranded on an island or if they're in a prison, they don't want to go in solitary confinement. Things that just shows you that our mind needs nurturing and needs each other. And I've always believed the secret to life is each other. So that was a tough time for all of us, but I can say that slowdown gave me a huge opportunity to have a reset and reflect and look at myself and see what I needed to improve on. And when things started picking back up again, it gave us a huge opportunity to get our feet underneath us on such this endeavor that we took.
Yeah, well, I think Mother Nature or whatever God everybody prays to, whatever it's called, was giving us a message, maybe like get it together, take a breath,
Yeah,
smell the roses and all that stuff. And hey, I'll tell you, I'm grateful for you being a leader who cares and a new friend. I don't have that many friends in Oklahoma. I need more. And
well, we can fix that. I'm telling you right now, my grandma said I ain't never met a stranger, so we'll prove that.
There you go, exactly. And I think I'm hopeful for the same things. I'm hopeful now for meeting grandma and friends
Yeah.
and you so thanks for everything you do. Thanks for being a leader who cares and being on the series, man.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I really can't wait to do more with you guys and dig deeper into all it is that you guys are doing for 2025. I think 25 has a huge opportunity for us in store as well as what you guys are doing. And
Yep.
I don't think people meet by accident. I think you have to have the intelligence ones to know, take the time to take that meeting,
We don't meet by
seriously.
accident.
No,
What's the
no.
chances of a Canadian Jewish guy meeting a guy from Oklahoma that hunts? What's the chances?
Well, hey, all it took was just serendipity, man. It works out perfectly, and I love Alan. Alan's a sweetheart of a guy, and I met him a couple years ago when we was filming for the Puppathon for the Super Bowl. So
Yeah,
it's really crazy, how things align themselves. But I do feel it in my heart and soul that we have big things coming,
I
and we
agree.
worked really hard to put ourselves in the position. And like you said, it's our responsibility to do good. It's our responsibility to take the gifts that we've been given and give them back and do it,
Right,
tenfold. And that's
right.
that's what I really want to be a part of. And I'm so honored and humbled to be invited here to talk with you. And I cannot wait to see how we're going to attack that.
Yeah, well, it's my privilege. And so thanks again. Love you, brother, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Cheers, brother. Be good. If not, be good at it.